Hey everybody, I've been working pretty hard on a Mordhau map, and I just wanted to show you guys the process that I took and different techniques that I used to make this map come to life. This map was made for the Mordhau mapping and modding community on Discord, and I'm gonna post the map to Mod.io pretty soon. But I just wanted to give you guys a look into how I went about making this. It took several hours to complete, and so I've broken all these hours up into different 10-minute videos so that it's much shorter and I can talk over it. And so I'm calling it a time-lapse tutorial because you see a lot of tutorials that, well, first of all, play at normal speed, but second of all, they go through all the very intricate and minute details, and so I kind of wanted to make a tutorial that was kind of more of an overarching tutorial. And so it might not be super professional in how I make the assets, but my, I guess, thought process while I was making this was, why not just go for it? I like to try to jump right in and make things without thinking about them too much. I find it easier that way. So I'm just going to be talking over this video for pretty much the next 10 minutes. And then I wanted to make a couple of other videos, and if people like them, maybe I'll make some more maps and go into some different processes and techniques and whatnot. So here we go. Well, I started out making the map using BSPs in Unreal, and since Mordhau uses Unreal, it was incredibly easy to make this map and import it right into the game. First of all, if anybody wants to try it out, they can go over to the Mordhau mapping and modding community on Discord. I'll probably post the link in the description, but if I don't, you can just look it up. It's pretty easy and a lot of great people there. So let's talk a little more about the video. So yeah, so I just set up some BSPs, and BSPs are kind of geometry that you can model right in the engine in Unreal. And you can see I'm pulling some vertices and faces around just to create the general landscape and the walkable parts of the map. And BSPs are an interesting tool because I kept some of the BSPs, and by BSPs I mean anything you see with a gray checker box on it. That's what BSP is, and I'm just dragging the faces around to kind of create the geometry. And BSPs are great. I used a lot of these models that I created using BSPs in the actual map as walkable terrain, so I didn't really need to make much flooring for the map, and it worked out great. You can see me also using the subtraction BSP, and basically what that does is you put a gray box and you overlap it with another gray box, and it basically subtracts or cuts a hole, is a better way of describing it, into an existing BSP. And that allowed me to make a bunch of doors and cut cylinders into shapes so I can create those big cylindrical rooms and whatnot. And you can see that this tube here, this hexagonal tube, if anybody's played Star Wars Battlefront 2 on the PS2, you'd know that this is the prison area or the detention district of the Death Star. And the reason why they were white initially is because I wanted to put it in Mordhau and test it And the BSPs, while players can walk on them for Mordhau specifically, if you try to swing your sword through them, it just goes right through the walls. So for all the walls, I had to replace them with static meshes, and you're gonna see me create a whole bunch of different static meshes later on. But for this 10 minutes, it's pretty much just setting up the BSPs and the general layout of the level. So I got this map. If you can see that picture, that super stretchy D-res picture, low-res picture, that's actually the layout for Star Wars Battlefront 2's Death Star that I kind of just made a material in Unreal and slapped it on a cube, just so I can get the general distance from all of the different capture points. So I'm just creating the different walls and rooms, and this is primarily at this stage, it was to get a feel of how big everything was, the scale of everything when I actually take it into Mordhau and walk around in it. A lot of the times you end up making things that are too big or too small, and it's kind of out of your sphere of consciousness as you make this, but then when you bring it into Mordhau, it's a little scary if you see that you've made your rooms too big or small. So before I started doing all this, I actually used a model that was provided in the SDK. And for those of you who don't know what an SDK is, it's a source development kit that the developers of Mordhau were super kind enough to provide us modders with, and that just sped up the whole process. I went with something a little unconventional here. I was inspired to make a whole new level, don't ask me why, with completely different models, and none of the Mordhau models translate over when you're trying to build a Death Star map. And so I had to kind of make everything from scratch. And those were those pictures you saw at the very beginning of the episode. So you can see me here making the blue team spawn, and then way later on in the series I'm planning, this is the red team spawn over here. It doesn't look very nice right now, but I'm just kind of getting a general spacing of everything. So you can see me flying through the map, making sure everything's okay. I eventually got rid of the PNG, and that cube down there is meant if players fall off the edge, they'll fall long enough to die, because that's, I guess, the only way I could kill people. If they fell off the edge. And I did want to have holes in the map because it is Death Star after all. So here you can see me kind of create different rooms. This is one of the rooms. It's inspired by the Luke and Leia scene where Luke and Leia swing across the chasm in the Death Star. So this is just me building that out. And then I had to create a couple of new areas that aren't in Death Star map Star Wars Battlefront 2, because just the general spacing of everything, it was too big of a map, and I wanted to have a relatively short 2 capture point map, so I had to create some extra rooms. And these rooms actually turned out pretty cool because I did something that I really liked with them, which was, instead of having walls in between these rooms, I actually ended up leaving them open. So as the players come out of the red team spawn, they can, I guess, it's a lot more open. You can see a lot more space, and you'll see what I'm talking about in later episodes. So here I'm just setting up the spawns. These big white cylinders are the Team 1 spawn and Team 0 spawn. and then I'm setting up some objectives like the peasants, and I'm hoping to replace those models with something a little more Star Warsy, but for now I'm not really sure how, so we'll see about that. But there are a lot of really great people in the Mordhau mapping and modding Discord, so I'm sure I'll have a great fun and easy time. Alright, so I found out that you kind of have to put these cylinders at the right level so that the picture, the red and blue rings overlay properly. And we are almost at the end of the 11 minutes. I thought it was going to be 10 minutes, but it's 11. And that went by pretty quick, and you can see generally where the map was at the 1 hour mark, which is pretty cool. First time I'm seeing this.